Get ready to find your recipe for a successful real estate lifestyle from America's top expert here at Greenlight REI with your host, Lance Edwards.
Well, hello, everyone. Welcome to this session of Greenlight REI. This is where you learn the successful recipe to the successful real estate lifestyle. And we've got a really special interview today with our special guest, Mr. Carl Allen. This is on a topic outside of real estate, but many, many parallels. And it's something I know you're going to find very, very interesting. It's another way to generate cash flows for yourself, leveraging other people's resources. Carl is actually over in Manchester, England, as we are communicating today. This is the power of technology, and he's the owner of a company called Ninja Acquisitions. He's done more than 250 business acquisitions on his own rights across 24 years in 17 different countries and 23 different industry sectors. And he does this using other people's money, which for those of you that are in the real estate side, or if you've been following me close at all on the apartment side, is exactly what we do. He's just channeling these efforts at businesses. So we're going to be picking Carl's brain today. And so with that, Carl, I want to welcome you to Greenlight REI.
Thank you. Thanks for having me. It's a pleasure to be with you.
You know, I'll tell you what, Carl, you're probably the best one, most qualified person to talk about Carl Allen. So if you would take a few minutes here and tell everyone your background and what you're up to.
Sure. So I grew up on Wall Street. So I'm nearing the big 50, nearly 50 years of age. So I started off on Wall Street in the early 90s, started doing, deals, buying businesses for large corporates like Boeing and GE and IBM to kind of cut my teeth in that world, and then left kind of the banking sector, did my MBA, and then I ended up working for Hewlett-Packard. So I was one of their mergers and acquisitions specialists, flying all over the world doing deals. And I kind of quit that life about 10 years ago. I almost missed the birth of my son, who's now 10. I was in Moscow on a deal, and my wife went into labor prematurely. So I had to kind of schlep it all the way back from Moscow. And I literally got there just before he was born. So I decided that, I wanted to quit working for other people, making them lots of money. I would channel my skill set and my years of experience into buying and selling, my own small businesses. And what I found was, buying and selling, billion-dollar businesses for corporates, it's not that much different than, buying a $1 to $5, million business. Although there's a lot more around the kind of seller psychology than there is when, you're buying a $1 billion software company. So, right. So 2010, I started doing my own deals, and, I've been buying and selling small businesses ever since then. Sometimes I flip them really quickly. Others, I keep and I hold on to them. I own 17 different businesses, as of today. And then a couple of years ago, I, was inundated by requests for people to coach them, show them my system. I have a proprietary system for buying a business, growing it, and then selling it. And I decided to build a coaching program, which I've done. And I have about 1,200 people, in that program. I also have a mastermind where I'm doing deals with other people. And, it's a lot of fun. It's given me a lot of leverage. I've just bought a company in LA. I hardly spend any time in that business. I have a team running that business for me. So I've got ultimate leverage over my life, and obviously lots of passive income from all of the businesses that I'm invested in.
Well, that is super. That opens up a whole lot of interesting questions here. So let's just start here. We were talking a little bit before we got started here on the podcast today, Carl. What is the opportunity right now for going out and buying, for an individual to go out and buy small business? What is the opportunity?
Yeah, the opportunity is huge. And the United States, there's more opportunities in the United States than the rest of the world actually combined. Today there's over 2.4 million small businesses for sale in the USA, and only 1 in 13 of them will actually sell in the next 12 months. So there's a big trend in baby boomers retiring. 10,000 of them are retiring every day, according to the Wall Street Journal. And Forbes tell us that 19% of those boomers own a small business and they're struggling to sell them. And these are good businesses. You know, they're profitable, they've got cash flow, they've been around a long time, but there's just a massive shortage of buyers that know how to buy a business, because it's not the easiest thing in the world to do if you've never done it before. And B, there's a big misconception, and you'll know this from the real estate world. Most people think that if you want to buy a business that's doing $1 million, you've got to have $1 million in cash to actually buy it, and you don't. It's all about the power of leverage. You can use other people's resources. You can use equity investors. You can use asset financing, using the assets that are on the balance sheet, which a financier will take as security. And then what you also find as well is most sellers, they will let you pay for their business over time. So if you go to bizbuysell.com, which is the largest business broker site in America, and you go there and you say, okay, I want to buy a manufacturing business in Chicago, and you pull up all the listings, they'll say, 60% seller financing, 90% seller financing, some of them 100% seller financing. Because what these business owners want is they want to be able to wake up in the morning, not have to go to their business, but still get the cash flow that the business would generate. So you can take the business off their hands legally and then just pay them what they want for the business over time using the cash flows that the business generates. And it's called the leveraged buyout, Lance. That's what we used to call those deals on Wall Street. Obviously, I was doing them for billion-dollar deals, but now obviously I'm doing them for $1 to $5 million deals. It's ultimate leverage.
Well, what you're doing, and correct me if I'm wrong, what you're doing in the real estate, which is seller financing, correct?
That's correct.
And so, and I imagine, just like when I'm buying small apartments, I'm dealing with individual mom and pop owners who actually happen to be baby boomers as well. These are sound like the same type of people you're speaking with. Is that correct?
That's correct. Yeah. Yeah. In most cases, I'm also buying businesses off, entrepreneurs that have created a business. They've got a little bit burnt out. They want to go off and do something else, but they want the business to go to a safe pair of hands. So somebody that's going to protect the business, the legacy, the brand, and look after the employees and the customers. Right. For that reason, they're very creative and flexible on the type of deal structures that we're doing with them and agreeing with them.
Well, I guess that's tremendous parallels with real estate. So, all right, so let's start here, Carl. So you mentioned there's 2.4 million small business for sale in the United States alone.
Yep.
Only 1 out of 13 of them will actually sell. So how does someone start with finding businesses for sale?
Yeah, so there's multiple ways of doing deal origination, and the whole concept of deal origination is to build a funnel. So you don't just go and find one business and flog that deal to death until you do it. But the goal is to build a pipeline and have between 10 and 20 deals that you can play off against each other and filter them down, through the funnel. It's a bit like a sales process. It's very, very similar. And there are multiple methods that we use, for deal origination. Obviously, we go to brokers. We only look at broker deals that have been listed for about 9 months, because then you've got that seller frustration that they're not going to sell, their business, and they're going to be very flexible and sensible about the terms that they're looking for. We coach our entrepreneurs a lot around networking. So leveraging their human networks and leveraging their personal networks. I got a story yesterday actually from one of my guys who joined my coaching program last week, and he was out at a dog park. He lives in Texas, and he was walking his dog, and he was kind of sat down on a bench, and the guy sat next to him. He'd never met him before in his life. He was sat there. He had his head in his hands, and one of my members, Josh, just said to him, hey buddy, what's up? And it's like, what? I've had it with my business. I don't want to go there anymore. I don't like it. And I want to sell it, but I've got no idea how to sell it. And Josh said, well, hey, I'm a business buyer. Send me your numbers, and we'll see what kind of deal that we can do. And the guy actually just said, look, there's liabilities already in this business. I'll give you the frickin' thing. You can take it off my hands. Just pay me a little bit of the profits over the next couple of years. You can have the business. And then it's a great business. So, your network or people that you can meet are, a great source of deal flow. And, it's all about networking with what we call deal intermediaries. So networking with CPAs, networking with attorneys, networking with wealth managers, financiers, banks. They've all got access to small business owners who they know are looking to sell, but they haven't took that step of listing with a broker. And that's how we always used to do deal origination, back in the old days. But what we've seen over the past few years, and we coach our people massively on this, is the power of using social media. So we're doing a lot of deal origination from Facebook. We're doing a lot of deal origination from LinkedIn. It's amazing. If you're on LinkedIn, you can type a simple post in your LinkedIn profile to say, hey, I'm Lance. I'm looking to buy a small business in the engineering sector within 50 miles of New Jersey, between $1 and $5 million. Private message me if you know of any suitable opportunities. You send out a post like that on LinkedIn, within 24 hours, you'll get 20 to 30 leads. So networking is really powerful. We also originate opportunities from events, networking events and trade shows and those types of things. And then we also look at doing deals with large corporates that are spinning off very, very small micro subsidiaries that are no longer core, and they don't necessarily want those businesses anymore. So there's lots and lots of different ways that we can do deal origination. We stick them into a funnel, and then we just quickly filter them down and make sure that the businesses are the right businesses. You've got the right seller mindset. You've got the right business in terms of its financial profile. So it's got assets and cash flows that we can use to leverage a deal. And then also, because there's so many businesses for sale, it's up to the entrepreneur to find a business that's going to resonate with them. So it's in a sector that they know and they understand, they're passionate about. They've got a network and other resources that they can bring to the party. So when you get all of those three ducks aligned, then doing a no money down business acquisition is actually quite straightforward once you know how to do it.
So, okay, now you're talking about all these businesses. Actually, you're doing businesses around the world now. So let me ask this question. For someone to buy a business, does that business have to be in their backyard? And if no, how do they go about analyzing and choosing the right deal?
Yeah, so one of the first things that I coach my entrepreneurs on is, do you want to be an owner investor? Do you want to be an owner manager? Or do you want to be a deal maker? So, if you take the 1,200 plus people in my coaching program, it's almost like a third split. So there's a third of the people come into my program and they're like, hey, I'm a senior manager in an engineering business. I want to own my own company. I don't want to start one because there's a massive failure rate. I want to buy an existing business that's profitable, and I want to go and I want to run it. I want to be in there every day, and I want to be the owner, manager, the GM of that business. So if that's what you want to do, then ideally you need to buy a business either close to where you live, or if you want to relocate in the area where you actually want to go and live with your family. The second third of people are like me. They want to be owner investors. So they want to buy one or more businesses, but they don't want to go in there and be the general manager of that business. So they want to work a little bit like a micro private equity investor. So for those types of deals, it's making sure that the business has got a good management team, it's got good systems and processes. And then I coach my entrepreneurs how to manage those businesses remotely through KPIs and financial dashboards. And then how to incentivize and motivate your general manager to run that business for you. It could be a strong number two in the business already. It could be somebody from your network. And in some cases, even though I never do this, some of my members of my program, they've bought businesses like Tyrone Cole, who's in LA, he bought a business in New Jersey. And as part of the deal, the owner stayed on and is running the business for him. He's happy to stay and have a job, just didn't want the pressure of owning the company anymore. And then the other third of people that I work with, they don't want to own a business. They just want to be a deal maker. They want to broker deals for other people and get fees and pieces of equity in those deals for effectively leveraging my system. So they're building little portfolios of equity positions in 5, 10, even 20 deals in some cases.
Right. All right, so we'll come back to something. You said, the 2.4 million businesses that are for sale in the United States, only 1 out of 13 will actually sell. Why is that, and what is the opportunity for that fact for an individual entrepreneur?
Yeah, so there's 3 reasons why. So number one, there's just a big shortage of entrepreneurs, in the United States that know how to buy a business. As I said at the start of the call, it's not a commonly available skill set. Unless you've worked on Wall Street, or you've got an accounting background, or you've got access to a system like mine, you don't know how to do it. It's not as straightforward as doing real estate. You have to do due diligence, you have to find businesses, you have to learn how to negotiate, all that stuff. So, reason number one is there's only 200,000 businesses per year that change hands, because most entrepreneurs, they don't know how to do it. The second fact is there's a misconception that to buy a company, you've got to pay for it all up front with cash and your own cash, which is absolutely not the case. As I mentioned before, you can use other people's equity, you can use debt financing, using the assets, you can use seller financing. And what America's got now, because it's an epidemic in the United States, all these baby boomers are retiring, they can't sell their companies. And the government's doing something about it. They've created this wonderful thing called the SBA 7A loan program, which means the federal government, through a partner bank, will provide you 90%, that's 90% of the financing for you to go out and acquire somebody else's business. It's absolutely fantastic, but most people don't know about it. It's one of the core things that we coach people through, inside of the coaching program. We show them how to access that capital and how that process, really works. And then one of the other issues that you've got is a lot of baby boomers, they're approaching retirement and they don't have an exit strategy. So they haven't professionally prepared, their business for sale. If you go back 20 years, if dad owned a manufacturing company in Pittsburgh, it was natural for him to hand it down to his son or his daughter, but not anymore. They want to go to college. They want to be doctors and lawyers and bankers and consultants. They don't want to take over, dad's engineering business, even though it's a great business making great cash flow. So dad, all of a sudden, he has no idea how to sell his business. So they just sit there. They don't go via business brokers generally, because they're very, very expensive and in most cases not very competent, unfortunately. So you've got a lot of frustrated business owners sat there thinking, how do I retire? How do I get some money out of this business and go off and enjoy the rest of my life? And we have a proprietary process to find these people and negotiate, win-win deals, which mean that we can buy them without using our own money.
There's so many parallels here. So I got to the same points that you're raising are identical in the real estate space, of course.
Yep.
And one of the things someone that's listening right now, Carl, may be thinking is, well, I've never owned a business, or I've never run my own business. I've been an employee for the last 2 or 3 decades. So how would you respond to someone like that? They want to, they're excited about the opportunity, but they're maybe questioning their own qualifications for owning their own business or operating their own business. How would you address that?
Yeah, so I suppose it's the same thing that would go through somebody's mind when they go and start a business. 7.4 million Americans last year went and started a brand new company, and 96% of them will fail. Those aren't my numbers. Those are the numbers of Michael Gerber, who wrote The E-Myth, which is the greatest book I've ever read. And it's the same challenge, because if what's important though is that you know and understand the sector in the business that you want to buy. So if you've spent your entire life, let's say you're a manager in GE, then it's natural for you to go and buy a small engineering business. You wouldn't go and buy a retail store, or you wouldn't go and buy a restaurant or a laundromat or a gas station or an IT services company. You'd go and buy a company in the area that you know and that you understand. And then as the owner of that business, the most important quality you would need is leadership, not management, because you can have a business where you've got systems and processes and people that are doing the day-to-day operational management of that business. Your job as the owner is to lead that team and then inspire them to grow it and obviously take action in making it, the most valuable, profitable company it can be before you sell it. So that's the challenge, and that's a massive part of our system. It's creating entrepreneurial leaders that can inspire their businesses, to go to the next level. It's not about the kind of daily grinding, management. Although, a lot of people that come into the program, they own businesses already, and they're looking to buy other businesses as a means to faster scale their revenues. Mm-hmm. It's becoming harder and harder to grow a business organically. It's a lot quicker. In fact, it's a lot quicker and easier. You can double the size of your business overnight if you go and acquire a business of the same size, which you can then bolt into the one that you've already got.
That makes a lot of sense. So if someone acquires a business, let's say it's, let's just for the sake of this example, say it's their first business they just acquired. And what are their options for exit strategies? You have a way to get them in. What are their different exit options?
Yeah, so the way to sell a business is number one, to grow it. So we coach people how to grow their businesses and make them a lot more efficient. The second one is to groom that business to make it highly attractive to a buyer. A lot of businesses that I look at, they're not really ready to be sold because the owner and the business is one and the same. All of the processes are in their mind. All their client relationships are in their own pocket. So what we do when we buy a business is we transition all that into systems so that the businesses, you can only sell a business for a premium price if the business will work without you as the owner. Some of my businesses I only see once a year. I'm going to Australia a week today to see one of my businesses. It's almost a year since I last went in, and that business has grown 50% in the last 12 months. So, that's an attractive deal for somebody to buy when I'm ready to sell it, because as the owner, I don't have to be there for it to function. So that's point number one. And then the second thing that you can do as a business owner is it's all about positioning. It's positioning your business in the marketplace so that it becomes very, very attractive to somebody to eventually buy it. The first thing I do when I buy a business, in fact, I actually do this as part of my due diligence process, is I will determine, number one, who's going to likely buy my business, number two, when I'm ready to sell it, and three, how much do I think they're going to pay? Therefore, what do I need to do financially to the business to get that number? And then what we do is literally while the ink's still drying on the purchase contract, I'll strategically, make my business in the market, make it a lot noisier and get in the way of these larger competitors, because, it's far easier for them to buy you out using their own resources than to go toe to toe with you in the marketplace under some form of guerrilla warfare. So that's what I tend to do. I start to pick little fights with my larger competitors, and then they'll just take me out, which is perfect.
Oh, very smart. Very smart. Very, very smart. Yeah, just get in their way. All right. So, and the thing about, you were alluding to this, let me make sure it's clear to everyone. So in these businesses, the business valuation is just like in apartment valuation. It's all driven by the income. And so your drive is to raise that income so you get the valuations up. Can you talk a little bit about, I guess, the processes of if you can, about getting the income up and, a little bit of education around how these valuations are done of businesses, Carl.
So whilst I agree with you, there's a ton of parallels between real estate investing and doing business deals. The one major difference is valuation. So if you're buying real estate, the value of real estate is either going to come down to, as you've said, the income that it generates, or B, the location of it. So if you buy an apartment on Nob Hill in San Francisco, it's going to cost you a lot more money if you buy the same apartment in the middle of Nebraska. No disrespect to the loyal people of Nebraska here, but location is. If you've got an apartment that can yield $10,000 a month in rental income versus an apartment that can yield only $500, there's going to be big discrepancies in valuation. When it comes to a business deal, the valuation is what's going on inside of the mind of the seller. You can take two identical businesses, same revenue, same cash flow, same balance sheet, doing the same product or service delivery. One's owned by a 30-year-old entrepreneur that's having a lot of fun and really enjoys being the owner. The other business is owned by a 62-year-old retiring baby boomer that's tired, frustrated, wants to retire, has got no exit strategy. That business is going to be worth a fraction of what the entrepreneur is going to want for his business. And I'm the same. I own a technology company in Australia. I wouldn't sell that business for 20 times earnings. I bought it for 2 times earnings. I wouldn't sell it for 20 because we're growing it like crazy. It's grown 50% in the last year. There's a lot of life left in that deal, and I'm having a lot of fun with it. Whereas one of my businesses in the UK, which is a packaging company, gosh, I would give that away for $1. I hate that business. It's driving me nuts. I don't want to own the business anymore. I'm trying to convince my general manager to take it off me for £1, but he doesn't want it either. So I might just end up closing the doors on that. Or if any of your viewers want to have it, I'll gift wrap it in a nice bow and deliver it. But so valuation in a deal often really comes down to mindset, and it comes down to psychology. So obviously I'm not targeting the entrepreneur owners, I'm targeting the baby boomers. And because they value that safe pair of hands a lot more than the financial side of the deal, I'm able to structure something that's heavy on the seller financing, and it allows me to use their assets in their business to offer up to financiers to make some form of closing payment.
So one thing you just said, and talk about the mindset and the psychology of the seller in this negotiation. And one of the things that in my trainings is very big on the mindset side, even from the buyer side, just getting started for someone new. So, and I know that's a part of your training, your philosophy as well. So, this is the soft side of the business, is what I call it. Can you elaborate some more? Explain a little bit more about the mindset, if you could, Carl, with regards to either the acquisition side or the seller side of the business.
Yeah. So on the acquirer side, the mindset is all about getting rid of any limiting beliefs. So the general entrepreneur on the street will come up and say, "Well, I've never run a company before, so I don't know how I would do it. I've never bought a business before, so I don't know how the process works, and I can't believe that I can buy a company using somebody else's money." So the first thing that we do is we yank those limiting beliefs out like bad teeth, and we show them our system and our processes, and it makes them understand that this is truly achievable, and it's actually a lot easier than I make it sound. And then it's all about taking daily action. It's all about playing the numbers game. You can't randomly go up to one business and expect that business to work as a no cash down deal. You've probably got a 10% chance, which is, we coach people to build a funnel, find multiple deals, offer on them all, play them off against each other, and one or two of those deals is going to work. So it's all about, having the right mindset, taking out limiting beliefs, playing the numbers game, and leveraging your time and your skills. And using my model, I've been doing this stuff for 25 and a half years now, not 24. So there's not a lot I haven't seen in terms of doing deals. And I'm over 300 transactions now in my lifetime. So people can leverage a lot of that experience and skill that I'm offering up through my program. On the seller side, what's interesting, and you see this in all forms of life, Lance, is that with our types of deals, the $1 to $5 million deal, the selling decision is made at an emotional level. It's made subconsciously. And it's like marketing, as consumers, as buyers, we decide to buy things in life using subconscious emotional triggers. So people that buy Porsche cars, they're triggering ego and pride and lust and greed and all those types of emotions. They're not buying it logically, they're buying it emotionally. And a seller will sell a business on an emotional level as well. It's fear. It's fear that their life's work's going to blow up in smoke if they have to close the doors because they can't sell the business. It's pride of being able to walk into the country club and saying to their buddies, I built my company and I just sold it. They never tell them how much they got for it or the structure of the deal, but it's that pride and it's also that fear and that longing of wanting to spend the rest of their life doing the things that they love and spending time with their family and their hobbies, not having to keep going into their business every day and trying to grow it when that's not their plan anymore. So those are all the things that we tap into and we play on a lot of those things. And some people could argue that that's cruel, but at the end of the day, we're solving a massive problem for a baby boomer seller. Their massive problem is they can't sell their business. They're getting older. They're getting more tired and frustrated. Our solution is to take the business off their hands, protect it, take it to the next level, something that they would be proud of, and allowing them to go and live the rest of their life doing things that they love. That we're solving that problem. So it's a big win for them. The big win for us is, we negotiate to do those deals without us personally investing our own money.
Right.
And you've got the big psychological benefit to the buyer of that if they're working a 9 to 5 and all of their skills and their passions are lining someone else's pockets, they're able to channel that into their own business, knowing that, their wealth creation and their future, is pretty much in their own hands. They're not a W-2 person anymore.
Right. Yeah, it's just amazing. Total parallels with the business side, everything you're talking about here with real estate, certainly with income producing real estate like apartments. So Carl, you've got a training, a training for people who want to learn more about this, a free training. So there's a great resource you've got, and which we'll provide it on the show notes as well, guys, for this session. But can you tell people how to avail themselves of your free training?
Yeah, so I have a 90-minute masterclass training where I teach people my 10-step system and how they can go and deploy that and start doing deals, pretty much straight away. And, I make this available, to everybody. It's at ninjaacquisitions.com/free. And, every day I'll get an email from somebody into my team that will say, hey, I watched your free training. And I went and did a deal, and here's my deal, and it's amazing. And a lot of people say to me, why do you do this? Why do you give away your secrets like this? And there's two reasons. The first is, there's millions of businesses available to buy. I can't buy them all. I can't even look at them all. I can't even count them all, let alone do those deals. I buy between 7 and 10 businesses every year. And I'll sell between 7 and 10 of my businesses every year. So obviously, I'm just one person. I want to train an army of deal makers to go out and model my stuff and do their own deals. Because then my real why is all about leverage. So people that watch my training or they come into one of my coaching programs and they start doing deals, often they'll want to partner with me. So they'll find a deal, they'll build a relationship with the seller, and they'll say, hey, Carl, can we partner with you and have you and your team, do some of the heavy lifting on the deal? and then we'll co-own that business with you. And that's the reason why I did this, because it gives me leverage. It means that I've got deal makers all over the world scouring for deals and building relationships. And when those deals drop, then I just roll my team in, to get those deals done and get them closed, and then we start growing and improving them. So that's kind of my real why. It's getting leverage for myself and my business, and it's also spreading my skill set and allowing people to change their lives.
That is fabulous. Worldwide opportunity, guys. 2.4 million properties for sale in the United States alone. 1 out of 13 only closed. 12 out of 13 are not closing. Use other people's money, other people's resources. They're out there. You're solving a big problem for baby boomers looking to get out of these businesses, and it can solve your problem in regards to creating some financial independence and some cash flow for yourself. So take advantage of this free training that Carl has offered. And again, we'll get this link on the showcase or the show notes for this podcast. Carl, this has just been really super. I think you're doing great stuff. I think it's going to be of interest to a lot of people, and certainly a help to a lot of people. So I want to thank you for all of your time, and I really enjoyed this interview from between Florida and Britain today. This is a lot of fun, so thank you so much.
You're welcome. Thank you too. Really enjoyed it.
All right, everyone, it's going to wrap us up with this session of Greenlight REI. Make sure you check out the show notes, get access to Carl's free training, get even more detail around how you buying your own business using other people's money. Until the next Greenlight REI, this is Lance Edwards. Take care, everyone.
You've been listening to The Expert with Lance Edwards. Let us now blatantly and shamelessly bribe you toward creating your own real estate lifestyle by offering you a whole bunch of free stuff. Go to greenlightreinvesting.com and get you some free stuff and this session's show notes.